Meet the Omniversa in-wall shower valve, the latest advancement from Luxart. The Omniversa 1800V valve is the first single valve that fits all the shower trims in the entire Luxart line. That's right, one valve for all of Luxart. Today, we'll be showing multiple installation types. To start, you'll notice the valve ships with the plaster guard and cartridge. Just pinch the two tabs on either side to remove the guard. To replace the guard, simply snap it back on again. The integrated stops come out of the box in the off position for both the hot and cold. To open the stops, simply insert a flathead screwdriver in the slot and rotate a quarter turn. When the screwdriver slots are in the horizontal position, the stops are open. The Omniversa valve's plaster guard also has convenient markings to help guide installation. Since the valve can be installed at a maximum of 3 5/8 inches and a minimum of 3 1/8 depth, the markings help ensure placement for a correct trim fit. Normal PEX installation. For the first installation, we'll be using the Omniversa 1800V valve with PEX connection for both hot and cold sides. Note these inputs are in the vertical position. The advantage of vertical position inputs is that you can mount your valve close to a stud behind your wall, or you can also avoid using elbows if your supply lines are coming from top down or bottom up, as you see here. This is a nice time and money saver. Install the valve to the shower wall construction. With the valve in place, reinstall the plaster guard. Right now, the plaster guard is flush with the finish wall. There is some variation, though, allowed with the Omniversa valve. The valve can be installed at a maximum depth of 3 5/8 inches and a minimum of 3 1/8 depth to the finish wall surface. Next, insert the cartridge with the arrow in the up position to help you get the correct orientation on the pins on the base of the cartridge. Those two pins go into the two pinholes in the brass valve. When properly seated, you will not be able to turn the cartridge. Next, install the bonnet. Finally, install the cap and plaster guard. Back-to-back installation. Our next installation is for back-to-back installation, where there is another shower valve installed on the other side of the wall. Back-to-back with this bathroom, for example. Since the cold and hot come up for both baths, you may need to reverse the cold and hot entrances for the valve you are installing. To do that, simply turn the stem 180 degrees, keeping in mind there is a small dimple on the top of the stem, which in standard installations is always facing upward. Remove the temperature limiter. Turn the stem 180 degrees so the dimple is facing down, and reinstall the temperature limiter. Now the cartridge is prepared for hot water on the right sides and cold water on the left, just the opposite of standard. Next, install the bonnet. Finally, install the cap and plaster guard. Top-down installation. For a top-down installation, where the water supply is coming down from the top, the versatility of the Omniversa vertical input version makes this easy, since it can be connected to supply lines coming from below or above. Mount the valve 180 degrees in reverse. You'll note there is a small arrow on the retention ring now pointing down. We need to reverse the retention ring so that the arrow points upward. The plaster guard also has an up arrow and the word up. This allows for the plaster guard to be mounted properly with the valve mounted upside down. To do this, unscrew the 2 screws that are holding the slots on the retention ring. Simply loosen the screws. You don't have to remove them. Then turn the retention ring 180 degrees and put the slots behind the screw heads again and tighten them up. Now the arrow for the retention ring will be on top. The plaster guard arrow will also now install with the arrow facing up. Now with the cartridge installed, tighten the bonnet. Then, open the stops 1/4 turn on each side. This will bring pressure to the cartridge. Next, install the cap and plaster guard. LuxArt trim installation. Regardless of which version of the 1800V valve you are installing, the trim is a snap. With the cap installed, install the rest of the trim. Most LuxArt escutcheon plates have 2 screw holes for attachment. Thread the screws into the trim first. There are guide holes on the plaster guard. Once set, tighten with a screwdriver or power tool. Install the trim ring and finally set the handle. That's it! You're ready to start enjoying your new LuxArt shower. LuxArt trim installation. Aero, Poydras, Valero, and Embellish. Some LuxArt shower trims, namely the Aero, Poydras, Valero, and Embellish shower trims, have a slightly different installation nuance. With these trims, you will need to cut a notch or 2 off the cartridge valve stem. The number of notches to cut varies depending on each specific installation scenario. You will want to cut just enough to ensure your shower trim sits flush to the wall. In this case, we have cut 2 notches off. This makes the cartridge stem the correct length for this installation and still provides a bored-out screw hole. Insert the cut cartridge into the 1800V valve body, ensuring it is seated. Next, install the 1800V retainer nut snugly. The valve sleeve that comes with the 1800V valve can be discarded. You will not need the sleeve for the Aero, Poydras, Valero, and Embellish trims. Instead, on these models, a brass nut is installed into the shower trim handle. Next, install the shower trim escutcheon plate. You will notice there are no screws or screw holes in this plate. Instead, it is perfectly machined so that the escutcheon plate fits tightly against the wall, held snugly on by the shower handle. Press the handle onto the cartridge stem and the threads will mate up with the retainer nut. Turn the handle until it is tight. And now we have a fully functioning LuxArt shower trim.